Millionaire brings mistress to event pregnant wife, arrives with powerful CEO and steals the spotlight. They were once the perfect couple until lies, betrayal, and a whirlwind of ambition unraveled their picture-perfect life. Adrian Blackwood, a self-made millionaire with a taste for the extravagant, dares to bring his audacious mistress to the grandest charity event of the season. But when his pregnant wife, the gracious and beloved Charlotte, unexpectedly arrives hand in hand with one of the world's most powerful CEOs, the tables turn in ways no one saw coming. In a single night, secrets will be exposed, loyalties tested, and reputations overturned. Brace yourself for a story filled with power plays, heartbreak, and sweet, sweet revenge. The sprawling Blackwood estate in Connecticut was, by all outward appearances, the epitome of luxury. White Grecian columns framed the entrance, meticulously pruned rose gardens stretched far into the distance, and a driveway that curved like a gentle serpent welcomed visitors. Inside, expensive works of art adorned the walls, originals by Picasso, Monet, and Degas, speaking volumes about the household's unimaginable wealth. Yet behind those gilded doors, the atmosphere was thick with unsaid words and suppressed tensions. Charlotte Blackwood, 5 months pregnant, sat on the plush velvet sofa in the living room, her hand resting protectively on her modest baby bump. She was surrounded by comfort and extravagance, but her heart felt unbearably cold. Rumors had been circulating for weeks that her husband, Adrian Blackwood, was seeing someone else. The tabloids, always ravenous for a scandal, teased headlines like Blackwood heir in secret affair and billionaire husband's hidden rendezvous. In the beginning, Charlotte dismissed the stories. Adrian had always been the doting husband, showering her with gifts and love notes, whisking her away on spontaneous island getaways. But when he started coming home late with flimsy excuses and an unfamiliar perfume clinging to his expensive suits, doubt began creeping into Charlotte's mind. Even the staff had begun to whisper behind closed doors. The once harmonious household now felt like an echo chamber of secrets. One day, Charlotte finally confronted Adrian. She waited for him in his study, a room that echoed old-world elegance with its mahogany bookshelves and a vintage map pinned on the wall. She remembered how he used to trace his finger along the seas, dreaming of new business ventures abroad. But this time, the vision of her husband filled her with dread rather than admiration. "Adrian," she said quietly, her voice trembling despite her best efforts to sound composed. "I have to know, are you having an affair?" He paused, his broad shoulders tense under the fabric of his tailored jacket. 1,000 emotions flickered across his face: indignation, hurt, then something else. Charlotte couldn't quite decipher. Finally, he offered a faint shrug, a movement so cold it left her numb. "Does it matter, Charlotte?" he replied, refusing to deny the rumors outright. She felt her strength evaporate. She'd always believed that their marriage was based on love, trust, and support. This was the man who had once held her hand during a violent storm at sea, promising he'd never leave her side. Yet here he was, refusing to reassure her. A tear slipped down Charlotte's cheek, a silent testament to her heartbreak. Their conversation ended as abruptly as it began. Adrian left for an urgent business meeting, leaving Charlotte alone in the looming silence. She sat for hours, staring blankly at the grandfather clock, ticking ominously in the corner. Every second hammered away at her sense of stability, each swing of the pendulum reminding her that everything had changed. That very evening, Charlotte received a call from her friend Lucy Walters, a public relations specialist who had guided Charlotte through many philanthropic endeavors. "There's a huge charity gala coming up in New York, the Magnolia Foundation Gala," Lucy explained. "You'll be among top investors, philanthropists. Even Bill Gates and Bernard Arnault are expected to attend. This could be the perfect chance to show the world that you're strong, that you're still in control. Charlotte hesitated. She didn't feel strong, and the thought of facing the swirling rumor mill made her stomach churn. But Lucy's words planted a seed of resolve. In that moment, Charlotte made a decision. If her husband wanted to flaunt an affair, she would stand her ground and protect herself and her unborn child. Even if it meant diving headfirst into the lion's den, she would not hide away in her mansion, silently suffering. The next day, the tabloids were ablaze with a single name, Bianca Moretti. Glossy photographs captured a raven-haired beauty with a flawless figure draped in shimmering designer gowns. The headlines speculated that Bianca was Adrian Blackwood's new flame. In candid shots, she wore an enigmatic smile that seemed to say, "Yes, I know exactly what I'm doing." Charlotte stared at the newspaper, her breakfast untouched. She tried to steady her breathing, repeating in her mind that tabloid rumors were often exaggerated. But a little voice nagged at her. What if this time they were right? If so, Bianca Moretti's profile didn't exactly paint her as a shrinking violet. She was an Italian socialite with a rising star in the entertainment world, rumored to have a string of influential lovers and a knack for drama. The press devoured her every move. And now, according to the headlines, she had set her sights on Adrian. Just as Charlotte was about to call Lucy for a distraction, the front gates buzzed. Moments later, Charlotte watched through the window as a sleek, crimson sports car sped up the driveway, kicking up gravel. Adrian stepped out from the passenger side, his face set in that impassive mask Charlotte had come to dread. The driver's door opened, and out stepped Bianca Moretti herself, wearing stiletto heels that sank into the polished driveway. Charlotte's stomach lurched. So it was true. She had half-expected denial from Adrian that he would deny Bianca's existence, spin it as a fleeting business liaison, or try to reassure Charlotte of her place in his life. But this was blatant. The mistress had arrived at their home. She rushed to the main foyer, her breath hitching with every step. She tried to maintain composure as Adrian led Bianca inside. The grand entrance's marble floors reflected her silhouette, reminding Charlotte how vulnerable she felt. For a moment, the three of them stood there in a silent standoff, tension swirling like a physical presence. "Adrian," Charlotte began, trying to keep her voice steady. "What is she doing here?" Bianca's lips curved into a self-assured smirk. "I was in the neighborhood," she purred, her accent lending an air of sophistication. "Adrian kindly offered to show me the property." Adrian didn't flinch. His once loving eyes locked on Charlotte with an unreadable expression. "Bianca is my guest," he said flatly, his tone providing no comfort. Charlotte's hand instinctively went to her stomach, as if to protect her unborn child from the emotional blow. She had braced herself for the possibility of an affair, but she never expected Adrian would flaunt it so callously in their home. The brazenness of the act made her stomach turn. Bianca turned her gaze to the swirling staircase and the decadent chandelier overhead, an expensive piece they had acquired at an auction in Paris. "Stunning," she murmured. "You have exquisite taste, Charlotte." The words were pointed, dripping with condescension. Charlotte felt her cheeks burn. She wanted to retort, to tell Bianca to leave, but a wave of dizziness hit her. Her pregnancy had made her more vulnerable physically, and the emotional toll of this confrontation overwhelmed her. She squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, steadying herself. Adrian must have noticed because he took a step forward, his brow furrowing. Charlotte thought for a split second that he might reach out, ask if she was okay. But then Bianca looped her arm through his, pressing herself close to him. Adrian stiffened, torn in that fleeting moment between concern for his wife and a twisted sense of allegiance to his mistress. When Charlotte opened her eyes again, Adrian and Bianca were ascending the stairs, heading toward the second-floor balcony where priceless paintings lined the corridors. The message was clear. Bianca wasn't just a passing fancy, she was a guest in Charlotte's marital home. With Adrian's permission, Charlotte stood rooted to the spot, tears threatening to spill. She realized with startling clarity that the dynamic of her marriage had reached a tragic turning point. In that moment, her heart broke and her resolve hardened simultaneously. For too long, she had played the role of the supportive wife, the gracious hostess who never questioned her husband's loyalties. If Adrian was going to humiliate her by publicly acknowledging his mistress, then Charlotte would find a way to take control of the narrative and protect what was left of her dignity and the future she was trying to build for her child. She pulled out her phone and messaged Lucy, "You were right about the gala. I'll go. Help me make an entrance they won't soon forget." 3 days before the Magnolia Foundation Gala, Charlotte ventured into Manhattan to meet Lucy at a high-profile networking event for philanthropic leaders. Clad in a simple black maternity dress that perfectly complemented her growing bump, Charlotte exuded a quiet grace that turned heads. Despite the emotional storm brewing in her personal life, she knew she had to keep her composure in public. She greeted familiar acquaintances, artists, benefactors, local politicians with a soft smile and polite small talk. Lucy Walters, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of professional poise. In a crisp white suit, she worked the room like a seasoned diplomat, introducing Charlotte to influential guests. Lucy's aim was clear. She wanted Charlotte to forge new connections, especially with people who could overshadow Adrian's influence should he try to undermine her at the gala. It was near the sparkling ice sculpture of the Empire State Building, an odd but artistic centerpiece, that Lucy beckoned Charlotte over. Standing next to Lucy was Christopher Hart, the CEO of Phoenix Global Tech, a towering figure both physically and in the business world. Known for his visionary leadership in technology, Christopher was rumored to be one of the wealthiest men on the planet, someone on par with the likes of Elon Musk in forward-thinking innovation. Tall, with a confident stance and graying temples that gave him an air of distinguished charm, Christopher stood out even in a room full of millionaires. "This is Charlotte Blackwood," Lucy said, her voice tinged with excitement. "She chairs the philanthropic wing of the Blackwood Foundation. She's also a personal friend." Charlotte extended her hand, her eyes meeting Christopher's. There was an immediate electricity in his gaze, a mixture of curiosity and respect. "It's a pleasure, Mistress Blackwood," he said, taking her hand gently. "Lucy's been telling me you're a remarkable philanthropist, especially with children's healthcare initiatives." Despite her tumultuous personal life, Charlotte felt a warm sense of pride. She dedicated much of her time and resources to improving pediatric wards in underserved communities. "I do what I can," she replied modestly. The trio chatted at length, discussing everything from the latest developments in tech to philanthropic strategies that could truly make a global impact. Charlotte found Christopher surprisingly down to earth, free of the inflated ego so common among moguls. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words brimmed with insight. Eventually, Lucy excused herself, giving a knowing wink to Charlotte. This left Charlotte and Christopher alone by the ice sculpture, the glittering lights reflecting off the melting ice in a kaleidoscope of patterns. "So," Christopher began, folding his arms in a casual manner, "Lucy said you'll be at the Magnolia Foundation Gala this weekend. I'm presenting a new digital platform for charity coordination. Perhaps we can discuss potential collaborations." Charlotte's heart fluttered. She could sense that Christopher wasn't just extending a professional courtesy. There was genuine interest in forging a personal connection. A fleeting thought crossed her mind. How would Adrian react if she showed up at the gala on Christopher's arm? Adrian, who was clearly eager to parade Bianca. Would it be petty revenge? Or simply self-preservation? "I'd be honored," she said softly, "but to be completely candid, the gala might be complicated for me." He tilted his head, a hint of concern. "Complicated how?" Charlotte hesitated. Should she confide in him? She was a private person by nature, and Christopher was practically a stranger. Yet, something in his demeanor invited trust. She decided to be honest, if not entirely explicit. "I'm going through some personal challenges," she admitted, gently resting a hand on her belly. The event could be a turning point for better or worse. Christopher nodded, his expression empathetic. "I understand. Sometimes, public events have a way of crystallizing our private realities. But know this, if you need an ally, business or otherwise, I'm here." The sincerity in his voice disarmed Charlotte. In that moment, she realized she didn't have to face the gala and Adrian's humiliations alone. She could stand strong with an unexpected but powerful ally by her side. Before parting ways, Christopher handed Charlotte a sleek business card engraved with a shimmering phoenix emblem. "Call me if you need anything," he said, "even if it's just for moral support." Charlotte placed the card in her purse, her mind ablaze with possibilities. As she left the networking event, she felt a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. The memory of Adrian and Bianca's mocking laughter still haunted her, but now Charlotte felt she had a way to fight back on her own terms. Little did she know, this burgeoning alliance with Christopher Hart would set off a chain of events far beyond her imagination, culminating in a public spectacle that even the most seasoned gossip columnists couldn't have scripted. The Magnolia Foundation Gala was now more than just a social obligation. It was shaping up to be the showdown of the season, one that would force Charlotte to reveal the true depths of her resilience. 2 days before the gala, Charlotte walked through the expansive marble-tiled halls of the Blackwood estate, mentally preparing for what lay ahead. She and Lucy had been in near constant communication, coordinating dresses, jewelry, and potential press releases. Yet, every now and then, a pang of uncertainty gnawed at Charlotte's conscience. She worried. Was she transforming the gala into a theater for her personal vendetta? But each time that doubt surfaced, she remembered Bianca Moretti's smug face as she sashayed around Charlotte's home, her home, and Adrian's cold, dismissive response to his wife's heartbreak. In a quiet moment, Charlotte retreated to her personal sanctuary, a sunroom filled with exotic orchids and lemon trees. She sank into a wicker chair, letting the afternoon light stream over her. She needed solitude. The baby kicked softly, a reminder of the life she was protecting. That's when her phone buzzed. She glanced at the caller ID, Christopher Hart. Her pulse quickened. "Hello?" she answered, trying to maintain composure. Charlotte came his deep, reassuring voice. "I'm finalizing my appearance at the gala. My team suggested I arrive with someone significant, apparently. It's important for our public image. I know this might be forward, but would you be open to going together?" Charlotte felt a surge of conflicting emotions. This was precisely what Lucy had been nudging her towards, showing up with a powerful figure who would command respect and shift the narrative. Yet, it also meant stepping firmly onto the stage of public speculation. The tabloids would undoubtedly spin 1,000 headlines if she arrived on Christopher's arm. She took a breath, remembering the humiliation she'd already endured. If Adrian could parade Bianca, then Charlotte had every right to stand tall. "Yes," she found herself saying. "I'd appreciate the support." Christopher's response was warm. "I'll have my car pick you up at 6 p.m. sharp. We'll make an entrance together." After the call ended, Charlotte caught her reflection in the sunroom's glass pane. She saw a woman grappling with heartbreak but refusing to succumb. Determination blazed in her eyes, even if beneath it all she was still afraid. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I can do this." That evening, Lucy arrived at the estate with a rolling wardrobe case in tow, brimming with designer gowns, shoes, and accessories. "We are going to make you shine, Charlotte," Lucy declared, setting her fashion arsenal in the grand foyer. She zipped open the wardrobe, to reveal shimmering silks and velvets in jewel tones: emerald, sapphire, ruby, and gold. "Pick whatever feels right," Lucy said with a supportive smile. "But I'd suggest something bold. Let them see you, not just the pregnant wife at home." Charlotte ran her hands over a luxurious emerald green velvet gown. She lifted it from the rack, imagining herself walking into the gala, head held high, baby bump proudly visible. Something about the color felt powerful, regal even. "This one," she decided, her voice steady. Lucy beamed. "Excellent choice. With some diamond accents, you'll look like a queen." They spent hours finalizing every detail, from hair and makeup to the statement necklace. Lucy had rented from a high-end boutique on Fifth Avenue. It was a discreet piece, but once it caught the light, it would sparkle like a constellation. Every decision felt like a step toward reclaiming Charlotte's dignity. In the midst of all the preparations, Charlotte's phone beeped with a text from Adrian, his first in days. "I'll be leaving early for the Magnolia Gala. Don't feel obligated to come if you're feeling unwell." It read, devoid of any warmth or genuine concern. Charlotte stared at the text in disbelief. Even now, Adrian was trying to sideline her. She typed back a curt response: "I wouldn't miss it for the world." For a moment, she fantasized about Adrian's reaction when he saw her on Christopher Hart's arm. Would he feel a pang of jealousy? Would he regret the choices that led them here? Or would Bianca's presence bolster his arrogance? Regardless, Charlotte had decided that whatever happened, she wouldn't let Adrian walk all over her. Night settled over the Blackwood estate, and Lucy left, satisfied that Charlotte's look for the gala was set. Before heading to bed, Charlotte lingered in the hallway outside the nursery. The room was partially furnished with a cradle, a rocking chair, and soft pastel curtains. She laid her hand on her belly, speaking softly. "I'm doing this for us," she whispered, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes, "to ensure we have the life we deserve." As she drifted to sleep that night, she dreamt of the upcoming gala, flashes of camera lights, the low hum of wealthy guests mingling, Christopher's reassuring presence by her side. The images morphed and twisted, but one feeling remained constant: hope. For once, Charlotte felt she was taking the reins of her own destiny, even if it meant walking into a social war zone. The day of the Magnolia Foundation Gala dawned bright and crisp, with an early autumn chill in the New York air. The venue, the historic Waldorf Astoria Ballroom, was awash in preparations from sunrise. Lush floral arrangements arrived by the truckload, while caterers scurried with silver trays laden with miniature delicacies. Outside, members of the press set up their cameras and microphones, ready to catch the A-listers, business tycoons, and philanthropic royals who would grace the red carpet. Charlotte woke up feeling a flutter of nerves that only intensified as the clock ticked toward evening. After a light breakfast, she tried to distract herself by reading the morning news. Headlines were a mix of typical tabloid stories and real-world events: Elon Musk unveiling a new rocket design, Bernard Arnault finalizing a major deal in luxury goods, and rumor columns speculating about who would show up at the gala with whom. One piece, however, made her heart drop. An article titled "Adrian Blackwood and Bianca Moretti, the power couple to watch," accompanied by a grainy photo of them leaving a ritzy restaurant. Charlotte shut her laptop, her pulse racing. She had to remember why she was doing this, not to stoop to Adrian's level, but to assert her worth and secure her future. By late afternoon, Lucy arrived, hair and makeup team in tow. Amid the flurry of brushes, curling irons, and final dress fittings, Charlotte felt as if she were preparing for battle. In a way, she was. This event had become more than a social outing. It was her proving ground. At exactly 6 p.m., a black limousine pulled up to the grand entrance of the Blackwood estate. Christopher Hart stepped out, dressed in a sharply tailored midnight blue tuxedo. He walked up the steps with an air of understated confidence. When Charlotte emerged in her emerald velvet gown, her hair styled in a loose, elegant chignon, Christopher's eyes lit up. "You look breathtaking," he said, offering his arm. His tone was genuine, free of the hollow compliments Charlotte had grown used to from the sycophants in high society. "Thank you," Charlotte replied softly, hooking her arm through his. A wave of relief washed over her. Whatever drama awaited them at the gala, she wouldn't be facing it alone. Meanwhile, at the Waldorf Astoria ballroom, the red carpet was already abuzz with flashbulbs and hushed gossip. Adrian Blackwood and Bianca Moretti arrived early, stepping out of a sleek Aston Martin. Cameras swiveled to capture the couple, journalists jostling for quotes. Bianca dazzled in a slinky silver gown, her dark hair cascading down her back. Adrian wore a deep charcoal tuxedo, his expression smug. As they posed for photographers, a reporter shouted, "Is it true you two are the new power couple in town?" Bianca flashed a coy smile, while Adrian gave a non-committal shrug, fueling more speculation. He glanced toward the entrance, half expecting to see Charlotte trailing behind him, but she was nowhere to be found. For a moment, a flicker of concern crossed his face. Had Charlotte taken his hint to stay home? Inside the gilded ballroom, guests mingled amid crystal chandeliers and soft orchestral music. Billionaires chatted with ambassadors, and CEOs negotiated deals over champagne. Bianca quickly attracted attention, flirting with star-struck admirers, while Adrian basked in the envy of less powerful businessmen. Everything seemed to be going smoothly for the illicit duo until a sudden hush fell over the crowd near the main entrance. All heads turned as Christopher Hart walked in, a poised Charlotte Blackwood on his arm. For a beat, the hush gave way to a shocked silence. Then the cameras exploded in a frenzy of flashes, reporters elbowing each other to get a shot. Charlotte felt a wave of heat rise to her cheeks, but Christopher gently squeezed her hand, steadying her. "Charlotte! Over here!" paparazzi shouted. "Is that Christopher Hart with you? Charlotte, you look absolutely stunning!" Charlotte, who had always been modest in the spotlight, forced herself to hold her head high and offer a serene smile. The glint of her diamond necklace caught the light, seeming to signal that she was not the timid wife overshadowed by scandal, but a formidable woman deserving respect. Standing across the room, Adrian froze, his jaw clenched and his fists tightened at his sides. He watched as Christopher guided Charlotte into the room with the ease of a seasoned gentleman. Bianca, sensing Adrian's shift in demeanor, followed his gaze and spotted Charlotte. A flicker of panic surfaced in Bianca's eyes, quickly replaced by disdain. The crowd parted like the Red Sea to let Charlotte and Christopher pass. One by one, guests greeted her, praising her philanthropic work and complimenting her radiant appearance. In a matter of minutes, the atmosphere shifted. Whispers soared through the ballroom. Is Charlotte moving on? Does she have a new benefactor? What about Adrian and that Italian socialite? Christopher guided Charlotte to a small group that included Bill Gates and Bernard Arnault, each engaged in a lively discussion about charitable projects. When Charlotte introduced herself, both men greeted her warmly, showing genuine interest in her healthcare initiatives. Adrian watched from afar, his stomach churning. He had hoped to dazzle the crowd with Bianca, but now all eyes were on Charlotte and the powerful CEO by her side. In that moment, Charlotte caught Adrian's gaze. She noticed the fury beneath his composed exterior. It sent a small tremor of satisfaction through her. She hadn't wanted a public showdown, but if Adrian insisted on humiliating her, she would show him just how capable she was of shining on her own. Bianca clutched Adrian's arm possessively, her eyes narrowed like a cat ready to pounce. The stage was set, the players all present. What had begun as a mere philanthropic gala had transformed into a battlefield of pride. jealousy, and hidden agendas, one that was just getting started. As the gala transitioned from the reception area to the main dining hall, a gentle melody from a live string quartet filled the air. Attendees were ushered toward round tables draped in gold tablecloths, each centerpiece a cascade of white orchids and tall, flickering candles. The ambience was ethereal, masking the undercurrents of tension seething beneath the polished veneer. Charlotte and Christopher found themselves seated at a table near the stage, close enough to observe the main proceedings, yet perfectly positioned to be seen by everyone else. Lucy, ever the orchestrator, had ensured this seating arrangement. Across the room, Adrian and Bianca were placed at a table with other high-profile philanthropists. Although the distance was modest, it felt to Charlotte as if the two tables were separated by an ocean of broken trust. Throughout the dinner, Christopher engaged Charlotte in conversation, asking about her aspirations for the Blackwood Foundation. She shared her dream of building a network of children's hospitals that integrated cutting-edge technology with compassionate care. Christopher was visibly impressed. "You have a grand vision," he said, sipping from his glass of sparkling water. "I'd love to see your plans in detail. There might be synergy with Phoenix Global Tech's medical software branch." Charlotte smiled, relieved that the conversation was about more than just making an appearance. Christopher's genuine respect for her ideas was refreshing. She was tired of being defined solely by her marriage to Adrian or by the tabloid rumors swirling around them. Just as the main course pan-seared sea base with truffle risotto arrived, the MC for the evening took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "we have some exciting presentations tonight, followed by a charity auction. But first, please welcome the CEO of Phoenix Global Tech, Mr. Christopher Hart, who will share a groundbreaking philanthropic platform." A ripple of applause spread through the hall. Christopher stood, straightened his jacket, and, with a final supportive nod to Charlotte, made his way to the podium. As he began his presentation, introducing a new digital system that would revolutionize how charitable funds were tracked and allocated, the audience listened raptly. Charlotte felt a sense of pride for Christopher's accomplishments, even though she had only recently met him. She glanced at Adrian's table. Bianca was whispering something into Adrian's ear, her eyes darting between him and Christopher on stage. Adrian's face remained impassive, but his clenched jaw spoke volumes. When Christopher finished, the applause was thunderous. The MC then called for Adrian to join them on stage to present a significant donation from the Blackwood Foundation. Adrian rose, adjusting his cufflinks as he made his way through the throng. Before stepping up, he paused at Charlotte's table, his cold gaze locking with hers. "You seem to be enjoying yourself," he said, voice barely above a murmur. "Quite the partner you've chosen." Charlotte maintained her composure. "Yes, I am enjoying myself," she replied. "And I hope you're satisfied with your choice too." Adrian's eyes flickered with an emotion Charlotte recognized as jealousy, though he concealed it quickly. He offered no reply and strode onto the stage, joining Christopher and the MC. Adrian announced a sizable pledge, an amount that elicited gasps from the crowd. But even the staggering figure couldn't outshine Christopher's dynamic presentation. Whispers circulated. Is Adrian upstaged by Christopher Hart? Once the formalities concluded, the lights dimmed slightly and the band struck up a waltz. The dance floor opened, and couples began to swirl under the chandeliers. Christopher returned to Charlotte, offering his hand. "Would you do me the honor?" he asked softly. Self-conscious of her baby bump, Charlotte hesitated for half a second, but Christopher's warm smile erased her doubt. She allowed him to guide her onto the floor. The other dancers parted graciously, making space for them. The hush that fell over the room was palpable. Cameras flashed discreetly as the audience witnessed Charlotte pregnant, radiant, and dancing with one of the most influential men in the world. Adrian, standing at the edge of the dance floor, felt his stomach twist. He had never seen Charlotte look so alive, so confident. The harsh reality struck him. He'd underestimated her. And that realization stoked a vicious sense of regret, which he quickly masked with anger. Bianca, sensing his inner turmoil, stepped closer. "Adrian," she purred, "it's just a dance. Don't let it bother you." But it did bother him. For the first time, Adrian found himself on the sidelines, overshadowed. He had assumed Charlotte would either shrink away or play the victim. Instead, she was glowing, capturing the attention of the entire gala in a way Bianca never could. The waltz ended, and Christopher led Charlotte off the dance floor, escorting her back to their table. To Charlotte's surprise, a small crowd of attendees, including a few influential reporters, immediately gathered around her. They praised her courage, asked about her philanthropic work, and inquired about her future plans. She answered politely, determined to steer the conversation toward her charitable passions rather than the sensational gossip. In a nearby corner, Bianca fumed. She had arrived tonight expecting to be the center of all eyes, certain that Adrian's wealth and status would ensure her spotlight. Instead, she found herself overshadowed by Charlotte's unexpected resurgence. As the night wore on, Bianca could no longer hide her frustration. She grabbed Adrian's arm with a feigned sweet smile. "Darling," she cooed in earshot of the crowd, "aren't we going to dance too?" Adrian forced a tight smile and led Bianca to the dance floor. Yet, even as he tried to perform the graceful steps, his gaze kept drifting toward Charlotte. Inside, a conflict raged between the life he had chosen with Bianca and the stability he'd cast aside with Charlotte. Little did he know, the real fireworks of the night were still to come. The gala's charity auction commenced with great fanfare. An auctioneer, flamboyant in a red bow tie, took the stage to present items donated by various patrons, everything from exclusive art pieces to all expenses paid travel experiences. The energy in the room surged with each new bid. Charlotte stood with Christopher by a lavish art display, half listening to the auctioneer's rolling voice as he rattled off the qualities of a rare painting. She attempted to remain poised, but she could feel the intense gaze of Adrian from across the room. Despite the elegant surroundings, tension simmered, threatening to boil over. While the auction continued, a hush of anticipation spread as the final item was introduced. A private island getaway for two, complete with a luxury yacht excursion, courtesy of the Magnolia Foundation's elite sponsors. Whispers of excitement swept through the guests. This was the grand prize of the night, a showstopper that would raise astronomical funds. Christopher leaned toward Charlotte. "Perhaps we should bid," he teased lightly, a chance to plan philanthropic strategies while surrounded by crystal-clear waters. Her heart fluttered at the suggestion. She knew Christopher was only half serious, but his offer represented something more, a life beyond the confines of her troubled marriage. "We might bankrupt you," she joked with a nervous smile, "but it's certainly tempting." The auctioneer started the bidding at a staggering sum. Hands shot up around the room, driving the price higher and higher. The atmosphere became electric. Just then, a soft voice purred next to Christopher's ear. It was Bianca. She wore a saccharine smile that dripped with calculated sweetness. "Christopher," she cooed, ignoring Charlotte entirely, "I hear your new platform is receiving international acclaim. I'd love to arrange a little demonstration for some people I know." Christopher, ever the gentleman, nodded politely. "I'd be happy to discuss that, Miss Moretti." Charlotte watched the exchange, her suspicions piqued. Bianca was clearly attempting to undermine her. She angled her body so that Christopher's attention was forced to shift away from Charlotte. Her tone was flirtatious, her eyes calculating. At that moment, Adrian approached, placing his hand possessively on Bianca's waist. Darling, let's not monopolize Mr. Hart, he said, glancing sharply at Christopher. After all, Miss Moretti and I have a yacht trip to plan, assuming we win the bid. Of course, Bianca smirked. We'll bid until the last hammer falls. Charlotte felt the jab. She recognized the subtext. Bianca was insinuating that she and Adrian were planning a romantic getaway, the kind of experience Charlotte might have once shared with her husband. The baby gave a kick, as if sensing the mother's inner turmoil. Charlotte inhaled, refusing to be cowed by their provocations. Across the stage, the auctioneer's voice soared. 1 million. Do I hear 1.1? Yes. Thank you, sir, in the back. 1.2? Yes, we have 1.2. Going once, Adrian raised his paddle with a flourish. 2 million, he announced, drawing gasps from the crowd. A round of applause broke out, guests whispering excitedly. Christopher met Charlotte's gaze, searching for approval. She gave a subtle nod. With that, he lifted his own paddle. 2.5 million, he counted smoothly. The audience erupted, thoroughly entertained by this high-stakes showdown. Adrian's jaw tightened. He lifted his paddle again. 3 million. Charlotte's heart pounded. This was spiraling into a spectacle, and she was uncomfortably caught in the crossfire. Christopher gently placed his hand over hers in a calming gesture. He wasn't about to let Adrian intimidate him. 3.5, Christopher declared, making the room buzz anew. By now, all eyes were on the two men, Adrian, flanked by Bianca, and Christopher, with Charlotte by his side. A tension-laden silence fell, as if the entire gala was collectively holding its breath. Adrian's face darkened, and he gave a brittle smile. 4 million, he said, his voice echoing through the microphone. Gasps and scattered applause followed. The auctioneer looked to Christopher, eyebrows arched. Charlotte tugged gently at Christopher's arm, worried the situation was spiraling. But Christopher exhaled, then raised his paddle with an air of finality. 5 million. An audible shock rippled through the crowd. Even the auctioneer gaped for a moment before regaining composure. 5 million. Going once, going twice. Sold to Mr. Hart. The audience erupted in applause, though some wore expressions of disbelief. The final item had fetched a record-breaking price. Christopher turned to Charlotte, offering a small, private smile. She mouthed a silent thank you, acknowledging he had done this to protect her pride, perhaps even to make a statement. Adrian, on the other hand, bristled with fury. Bianca clung to his arm, her face twisted in vexation. Charlotte noticed that while Adrian usually maintained a cool facade, tonight he was dangerously close to losing control. She wondered if he even realized the irony. His attempt to flaunt his new relationship had only pushed Charlotte further into the orbit of someone far more powerful. As the auction wrapped up and guests began filing toward the after-party lounge, Adrian cornered Charlotte by a pillar draped in burgundy velvet. His demeanor bristled with resentment. "Enjoy your victory," he hissed, keeping his voice low enough so that passers-by wouldn't hear. "You think parading around with Christopher Hart will make me jealous?" Charlotte stood firm, refusing to shrink away. "I'm not parading," she said calmly. "I'm living my life. If that bothers you, perhaps you should reconsider your own choices." His eyes flicked to her belly. For a fleeting second, Charlotte thought she saw concern, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. He leaned in, his voice a menacing whisper. "Careful, Charlotte. You're playing a dangerous game." She straightened her shoulders. "I learned from the best," she replied, turning on her heel to rejoin Christopher. Adrian stood there for a moment, seething. In the distance, Bianca waved him over, a shallow frown on her face. He went to her, but his eyes never left Charlotte. Around them, the ball continued in all its glittering splendor, oblivious to the private tempest brewing. Little did any of them know the night's revelations were far from over. The after-party took place in the Waldorf Astoria's famed Peacock Alley, transformed into a lush lounge with dimmed lighting, plush armchairs, and a live jazz band. Guests sipped expensive champagne, their laughter blending with the sultry saxophone tunes. Yet behind the glamour, hushed conversations and worried glances hinted at the drama still unfolding. Charlotte sat on an elegant chaise near the far side of the room, Christopher at her side. Lucy hovered, subtly intercepting curious onlookers who wanted to pry into Charlotte's personal life. Charlotte was grateful for Lucy's protective presence and Christopher's steady support. Still, her emotions were raw, and her body felt drained from the baby's constant shifting. She tried to ground herself, focusing on the shape of the baby's rhythmic kicks. "Are you all right?" Christopher asked, gently covering her hand with his. She nodded, offering a tired smile. "Yes, just overwhelmed." Before Christopher could respond, a commotion erupted near the bar. Bianca Moretti's shrill voice sliced through the mellow jazz. "Are you calling me a liar?" she spat, glaring at an older society matron who looked both appalled and frightened. People turned their heads, always eager for a spectacle. Adrian rushed to Bianca's side, attempting to calm her, but she shrugged off his hand. "I have nothing to hide," Bianca proclaimed, her cheeks flushed. "And I certainly don't need an old busybody insinuating otherwise." A hush fell over the crowd as the matron, face red, sputtered an apology. Lucy, ever the PR expert, quickly tried to diffuse the tension, gently ushering both women apart. But the disturbance had already drawn attention, and whispers began circulating about Bianca's fiery temper. Charlotte watched with a mixture of pity and wariness. She knew the older woman, Miss S. Sutcliffe, was known for her blunt manner. Rumour had it she'd made a snide remark about Bianca's new money background, sparking Bianca's outburst. In any case, the meltdown didn't bode well for Adrian's public image. A few minutes later, an ashen-faced Adrian approached Christopher and Charlotte. Bianca was busy at the bar, downing a glass of something that looked suspiciously like whiskey. Adrian looked like a man whose carefully constructed world was crumbling. His tie hung loose around his neck, and a bead of sweat trickled down his temple. "Christopher, Charlotte," he began, clearing his throat, "I'd like a private word." Charlotte and Christopher exchanged a glance. Reluctantly, Charlotte stood, nodding at Christopher to indicate she would handle this. They moved to a secluded alcove, away from prying ears. "What do you want, Adrian?" she asked, crossing her arms protectively over her baby bump. He inhaled sharply, as if grappling with 1,000 unspoken regrets. "Look, this is messy," he began, voice low. "Bianca's a complication, I'll admit. But don't think for a second I'm going to let you ruin the Blackwood name by associating it with rumours of an affair with Christopher Hart." Charlotte bristled. "You have the nerve to talk about rumours when you're the one parading Bianca in front of everyone." Adrian's composure began to crack. "Bianca isn't the issue, Charlotte. You are. You're using this event and Christopher to humiliate me." She felt a flash of anger. "Humiliate you? Adrian, you've humiliated me for months, ever since you took up with Bianca, refusing to even deny it. And now you expect me to keep playing the dutiful wife while you tarnish our marriage? No, I won't." His gaze flickered with something akin to desperation. "Don't do this, Charlotte," he almost pleaded. "Whatever you think of me, the reputation of the Blackwood Foundation is at stake. Our child's future is at stake." For a moment, tears threatened to well up in Charlotte's eyes. She remembered a time when Adrian's words held genuine concern, not manipulation. "If you cared about our child's future, you would have respected our marriage," she shot back, keeping her voice steady. Adrian clenched his fists. "You don't understand? Then make me understand," Charlotte challenged, voice rising. "Because all I see is a man who would rather break his vows than face his own insecurities. You lost your conscience somewhere on your climb up the social ladder." They stood there, locked in silence. Distantly, the jazz band played a mellow tune, a stark contrast to the storm of emotions swirling between them. Finally, Adrian broke eye contact, running a hand through his hair. "Fine, do what you want. But don't forget that you're still carrying my child. Don't drag us both down." He left without another word, returning to Bianca, who tossed back the last of her drink. Charlotte lingered, trembling with anger and heartbreak. She felt as if a vice had been clenched around her chest, tightening with every second. Lucy approached cautiously. "Are you okay, honey?" Charlotte turned, tears brimming. "I'm tired, Lucy," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm tired of being hurt, tired of being made to feel guilty for wanting respect." Lucy pulled her into a gentle hug. "Then let this be the last time you feel that way," she whispered firmly. Christopher approached, his concerned expression telling Charlotte he had overheard at least some of her conversation with Adrian. "Shall we leave?" he asked softly. "We've made our statement." Charlotte hesitated. Part of her wanted to stay, if only to prove she wouldn't be cowed. Another part, the larger part, yearned for peace and a chance to rest. "Yes," she finally said. "Let's go." With Lucy's help, they discreetly exited the gala, stepping past curious eyes and into the cool night air. The limo awaited, ready to whisk Charlotte away from the chaos. As the car pulled away from the Waldorf Astoria, she exhaled a shaky breath, uncertain of what new storms awaited her. But for now, she had survived the battle. In the days following the Magnolia Foundation Gala, the media went into overdrive. Articles and social media posts dissected every detail: Adrian's public display of affection with Bianca, Charlotte's stunning entrance with Christopher Hart, the record-breaking auction face-off, and Bianca's heated altercation at the bar. The tabloids published side-by-side photos of Charlotte and Bianca under headlines like, "Which woman won the gala?" Charlotte found solace in the quiet corners of the Blackwood estate, recharging after the emotional drain of the event. She spent hours reading pregnancy guides, preparing the nursery, and going for gentle walks in the rose garden, flanked by Lucy's reassuring presence. Yet every time she stepped outside or checked her phone, a fresh wave of speculation about her marriage and potential involvement with Christopher greeted her. She tried to shield herself from the noise, but it was impossible to avoid entirely. Meanwhile, Christopher reached out regularly. Sometimes it was a quick text, "Hang in there." Other times he would call, sharing updates about the philanthropic platform he'd unveiled. He never pressed her for more than she was willing to share about Adrian. Instead, he offered understanding and support, a kindness Charlotte hadn't realized she'd been craving. Adrian, on the other hand, was conspicuously absent. He spent most nights away from the estate. The household staff whispered in hushed tones about his whereabouts, some claiming to have seen Bianca's car parked by the gates in the early hours. With each passing day, Adrian's betrayal felt less like a knife twisting in Charlotte's heart and more like a dull ache. She told herself she deserved someone who chose her unequivocally, not someone who played with her feelings like a game of chess. One afternoon, Lucy burst into Charlotte's private sitting room, iPad in hand. "You need to see this," she said, her voice trembling with urgency. She showed Charlotte a leaked video clip from the gala's after-party. It captured Bianca's outburst at the bar, but the footage zoomed in on her slurred words to Miss S. Sutcliffe, who was rumored to have powerful connections in Washington. Bianca could be heard calling her an old relic who doesn't know class if it danced a tango in front of her. Charlotte's hand flew to her mouth. "That's worse than I imagined. Miss S. Sutcliffe is on the board of half the major charities in New York." Lucy nodded grimly. "And guess what? She's threatening to pull all support from the Blackwood Foundation unless Adrian issues a formal apology on Bianca's behalf." Charlotte sank into a velvet armchair, her mind spinning. The Blackwood Foundation was her pride and joy, a philanthropic pillar she had nurtured for years. Now it was being jeopardized by Adrian's reckless affair. What does Adrian say about this? Lucy grimaced. He's not exactly responding. I've tried contacting him. I even tried Bianca's number, but no luck. It's like they're going into damage control mode, but ignoring everyone else in the process. A swirl of anger and resolve ignited in Charlotte's chest. She stood, setting her shoulders square. If Adrian won't handle this, then I will. The Foundation's reputation is at stake. Lucy gave a relieved nod. Thank you. And I think you should consider making a public statement, reminding everyone of your leadership in the Foundation, clarifying that Bianca isn't associated with it and that you remain committed to its mission. Despite the turmoil, Charlotte felt a surge of purpose. She'd founded the Foundation with Adrian, but much of the philanthropic vision was hers alone. She refused to let their personal issues tarnish the good work they had done. Let's draft a statement, she said firmly. We'll highlight the child healthcare initiatives, and I'll request a meeting with Miss S. Sutcliffe personally. Lucy offered a supportive smile. You're doing the right thing. Within hours, Charlotte and Lucy worked tirelessly, typing up a statement that reaffirmed the Blackwood Foundation's dedication to charitable causes. Charlotte herself would host a press conference the following day, hoping to quell rumors and reassure donors. She felt a pang of nerves at the thought of standing in front of cameras again, but the stakes were too high to shrink away. The next morning, flashes flickered against the estate's iron gates as reporters gathered for the press conference. A makeshift podium was set up in the courtyard, flanked by the Blackwood Foundation's banner. Charlotte stepped out in a chic navy maternity dress, her hair swept back to reveal calm, determined features. Lucy stood nearby, arms folded, exuding professional composure. After a brief introduction, Charlotte addressed the assembled media. The Blackwood Foundation remains steadfast in its mission to bring quality healthcare to children in underserved communities, she began, her voice echoing across the courtyard. Recent events at the Magnolia Foundation Gala have led to misunderstandings, but rest assured, our commitment has never wavered. She went on to express regret for any disrespect shown to esteemed donors, making it clear that such behavior did not align with the Foundation's values. The press, hungry for personal drama, tried to probe about Bianca and Adrian, but Charlotte artfully deflected. I'm here to speak about the Foundation, she repeated, every inch the poised spokeswoman. As the press conference ended, applause and a barrage of shouted questions followed. In the distance, Charlotte saw a familiar black car pulling up, Adrian's car. Her stomach clenched, but she kept her composure, stepping away from the podium. Lucy touched her shoulder. Do you want me to handle him? Charlotte shook her head. No, I'll deal with it. Adrian emerged from the car, his face drawn with tension. He walked toward Charlotte, avoiding eye contact with the reporters still lingering. For a moment, they stood face to face, the air between them thick with unresolved conflict. That was quite the speech, Adrian said, keeping his tone low. I didn't realize you were going public. Charlotte lifted her chin. I couldn't wait for you to handle it. The Foundation is suffering, Adrian, and I won't let our personal issues destroy something so important. He looked away, as if struggling to find words. Bianca is sorting herself out, he finally muttered, offering no real explanation or apology. Charlotte took a steadying breath, fighting the sting of disappointment. She realized that whatever was left between them was hanging by a thread. We have a child on the way, she said, her voice calmer than she felt. I suggest we figure out how to move forward without tearing each other apart, for the sake of the Foundation and our baby. Adrian nodded, though his eyes revealed no certainty. He turned back toward the reporters, who snapped photos, capturing the tension that hung around them like a cloak. Charlotte felt her baby kick again, as if urging her to stay strong. In that moment, she resolved that she would no longer be defined by Adrian's choices or the drama surrounding their marriage. She was Charlotte Blackwood, co-founder of the Blackwood Foundation, soon to be mother, and a woman who would chart her own course, regardless of the chaos around her. Weeks passed in a blur of press conferences, meetings with donors, and relentless damage control. Slowly, the Blackwood Foundation regained its footing. Mistress Sutcliffe, after a heartfelt apology from Charlotte and a reassurance that Bianca held no official role, agreed not to withdraw her support. Other benefactors followed suit, buoyed by Charlotte's unwavering commitment. Meanwhile, Adrian and Bianca became an increasingly volatile pair. Their loud fights at high-end restaurants were fodder for the tabloids. Bianca's name remained in the headlines, attached to rumor after rumor, some tying her to other wealthy men, others claiming she was blacklisted from certain exclusive circles for her outbursts. Adrian found himself trapped, torn between a scandalous mistress and a public image in free fall. During this time, Charlotte focused on the things that truly mattered: her pregnancy, her philanthropic work, and the supportive friendships around her. Lucy remained at her side like a protective sister, and Christopher Hart became a constant source of encouragement. Their conversations moved beyond business into shared laughter and genuine camaraderie. They both understood that Charlotte needed space to heal, and Christopher respected her boundaries. Finally, the day came for the Blackwood Foundation's annual fundraiser, a smaller event compared to the Magnolia Foundation Gala, but crucial to the organization's yearly financial goals. This time, Charlotte was the evening's highlight, set to deliver the keynote address. The staff prepared the venue, a graceful hotel ballroom bathed in soft candlelight, with understated floral arrangements. The mood was one of elegance and sincerity, not ostentatious glitz. Charlotte arrived in a floor-length burgundy gown that tastefully accented her 8-month pregnancy. She felt the baby moving, a comforting sign of life and hope. Stepping onto the stage, she surveyed the crowd: donors, business leaders, doctors from partner hospitals, and supportive friends. She began her speech by recounting her personal journey, the obstacles faced, the heartbreak endured, but also the unwavering passion that propelled her forward. She spoke from the heart about the children who would benefit from the foundation's work. Applause punctuated her words, and she could see tears glistening in some eyes. At the edge of the room, Christopher watched with quiet admiration. Adrian was notably absent, dealing with yet another Bianca-related crisis. Charlotte finished to a standing ovation, stepping off the stage with cheeks flushed from gratitude and relief. "Bravo," Christopher whispered when she reached him. "I'm proud of you." Before she could respond, she felt a sharp jolt in her abdomen. Pain flickered across her face. She gripped Christopher's arm, panic in her eyes. Another contraction rippled through her, this one stronger. The room around her seemed to blur as Lucy rushed forward, worry etched across her features. "Charlotte, are you?" "I think the baby's coming," Charlotte gasped, holding on to Christopher for support. Chaos erupted. Staff scrambled to clear a path, concerned guests offered assistance, and Lucy whisked out her phone to call for a car. They guided Charlotte to a nearby suite, where a few medically trained guests checked her vitals. It was evident her contractions were quick and intense. There might not be enough time to get to the hospital if they delayed. Christopher knelt beside Charlotte, gripping her hand. "It's going to be okay," he soothed, though worry lined his forehead. The next hour was a blur of pain, frantic phone calls, and improvised medical care. By the time paramedics arrived, Charlotte was in active labor. She was rushed to the nearest hospital, Lucy and Christopher following close behind. In the ambulance, Charlotte's mind spun. She couldn't escape the bittersweet notion that Adrian, the baby's father, was nowhere to be found in her moment of greatest need. Yet, amidst the fear and the pain, a quiet strength overtook Charlotte. She recalled her vow never to be overshadowed or defeated by Adrian's choices. She thought of the child she was about to bring into the world, an innocent life that deserved love and stability. Through choked sobs and labored breaths, Charlotte clung to the hope that this was the start of a new chapter, one where she'd be free to carve her own destiny. After a strenuous labor, Charlotte gave birth to a baby boy. Exhausted yet euphoric, she cradled him in her arms, tears streaming down her face. She marveled at his tiny fingers, his soft cries, and the overwhelming rush of love that obliterated every ounce of pain. In the hospital corridor, Lucy quietly called Adrian's number, leaving a voicemail that he had a son. There was no immediate response. Then she relayed the news to Christopher, who placed a gentle hand on Charlotte's shoulder. He peered down at the swaddled infant and smiled. "Congratulations," he said, voice hushed with reverence. Charlotte looked at her newborn, then at Christopher and Lucy, the two people who had stood by her side in the most tumultuous chapter of her life. She felt no regret, only an immense gratitude for the unexpected turn her life had taken. In this hospital room, under sterile fluorescent lights, she found her moment of clarity. The spotlight she had stolen at the gala was inconsequential compared to the love she now held in her arms. A day later, after the initial rush of birth had settled, Charlotte sat by the window of her hospital room, holding her son, Michael James Blackwood. She whispered promises to him of protection, of honesty, of never being defined by someone else's betrayal. When she glanced up, she found Christopher watching her with a gentle smile that reflected genuine admiration. No, her story was far from over. There would be custody battles, potential divorces, and public scrutiny ahead. Yet, in that serene moment, Charlotte knew that she and her child would face the future on their own terms. They had already survived the storm. Now it was time to step into the light. From the glittering galas to the hush of hospital corridors, this dramatic tale of betrayal and reinvention highlights one unshakable truth. Real strength emerges when everything else crumbles. Charlotte faced heartbreak head-on, drawing power from her determination and the unwavering support of true friends. Adrian's wealth could not mask the cracks in his carefully constructed world, while Bianca's glamorous facade hid secrets that eventually consumed her. If these twists and turns left you breathless, or if you cheered when Charlotte finally found her voice, be sure to keep the conversation going. Hit that like button, share your reactions in the comments, and subscribe to this channel for more gripping real-life drama stories. Your support helps bring fresh tales of love, power, and redemption to the screen. Stay tuned for the next compelling saga, and always remember, no matter how dark the night, a new dawn awaits.